Hello everyone. Tonight we begin with a single breath. The kind of breath you don't rush. One that you feel from the center of your chest all the way down to your belly. A breath that settles you, grounding. A breath that knows it's okay to be exactly where you are. The moon may be rising outside your window. The world may be noisy or still. But here we begin again, not with answers, but with the softest question. Why do we suffer so much even when we have so much? You and I are about to step into the heart of the Buddha's teachings. Not through debate, not through big words, just through listening, slowly, gently. Because what we'll talk about tonight isn't easy. It asks us to look into the places we often avoid: grief longing, fear change. But here's the grace: we won't look alone. I'll be here word by word, and the Buddha's light will guide the way. So before you get too comfortable, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it there? Now turn off the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for some gentle noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. Imagine the Buddha, still young, still called Siddhartha, leaving his palace walls for the first time. He sees an old man, then a sick man, then a corpse. These aren't metaphors. They are flesh and bone truths of life that no silken cushion or royal title could protect him from. That night, everything changed. And maybe for you too, there was a moment. It didn't have to be dramatic. Maybe you just woke up one morning and felt it, a quiet weight inside your chest. The sense that even when things are going well, something still aches. That sense is not wrong. It's not broken. It's a doorway. The Buddha stepped through that doorway, and we are about to follow. The first noble truth is not a punishment. It's a kindness, a gentle naming of what we all feel, but rarely give voice to. In the language of the Buddha, it is called Dukkha. Some translate it as suffering, but that word can feel too sharp, too absolute. Dukkha is more than that. It is the creaking of a wheel that doesn't sit right on its axle. It's the subtle discontent when the coffee cools too fast, or when laughter fades and you feel alone again. It's in the goodbye at the airport gate. It's in the aging of your hands. In the mind that keeps running even at night, chasing some comfort it can never quite catch. And so, the Buddha didn't begin with paradise. He began with honesty. Birth is dukkha, he said. Aging is dukkha. Illness is dukkha. Death is dukkha. Union with what is disliked is dukkha. Separation from what is liked is dukkha. Not getting what one wants is dukkha. You might hear those words and think that's bleak. But pause. Listen again. He's not trying to make you feel worse. He's helping you feel seen. Because how often have you felt sadness or restlessness and thought something was wrong with you? That you were failing at life because joy didn't last, that your pain meant you were weak. What if it didn't? What if this very unease was the truth shared by all beings with a beating heart? The beauty of the first noble truth is that it doesn't judge. It just opens the curtain. It tells you, yes, life is like this, and you're not alone. And once you know that something softens inside, you stop struggling against reality. You stop pretending everything is fine. You sit down perhaps for the first time and allow yourself to feel the sorrow under your smile, the tension in your chest, the longing in your bones. You stop fighting the truth. And when you do, the truth begins to hold you, not hurt you. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition a woman named Kisa Gotami lost her child. She was frantic with grief. She went from house to house, asking for medicine to bring him back. Eventually, someone told her to go to the Buddha. He listened quietly, then said, "Go into the village and bring me a mustard seed from a household that has not known death." She ran to every door, but in every home there was grief, loss, heartbreak. She returned with empty hands and an awakened heart. That is the first noble truth. Not that suffering makes you hopeless, but that seeing it clearly opens the gate to compassion, to wisdom, to peace. Because only when we stop denying the pain can we begin to understand it. And through understanding, we soften. We hold ourselves more kindly. We stop blaming life for being life. And that is the beginning of freedom. So tonight, as you close your eyes or simply breathe more deeply, just let this truth settle in your heart. There is suffering. And that suffering is not a mistake. It is not a failure. It is a doorway. You are not broken for feeling pain. You are human. And the Buddha's path begins not after the pain ends, but in the very center of it. Let's keep walking together. Let's return to this path you've begun walking. Slowly, barefoot perhaps, the ground cool beneath you. Each step is soft yet deliberate. There is no hurry, no need to reach a destination quickly. The Buddha didn't sprint to enlightenment. He sat, he listened, and he saw. In this moment, we stay close to the first noble truth, not to linger in sorrow, but to understand its depth. What exactly is dukkha? We began to touch it in the last section, but now we pause longer, gently turning the idea over in our hands. Dukkha is often translated as suffering, but in truth, it's broader, quieter, and more pervasive. It is not always the loud pain of heartbreak or loss. Sometimes it's a low hum in the background of life, a constant, barely there tension, a subtle dissatisfaction. You might be sitting in a quiet room, warm and safe, and still a part of you aches. Not because something is wrong, but because everything is passing. Because nothing stays. That's dukkha too. It's when the moment you've been looking forward to finally arrives, and yet you still feel slightly empty. It's in the way joy always seems to carry a shadow. The laughter ends. The cake is eaten. The song fades. The touch is gone. The mind is always looking ahead to the next thing, and in doing so, it misses the beauty that is already slipping through its fingers. In the Buddha's own words, whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. This too is dukkha. Even happiness, especially happiness, can bring dukkha when we try to hold on to it, like clutching water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. You may have noticed this in your own life. A special day, a celebration, a sunset. The heart swells. And just as quickly, it contracts, aware that this too will pass. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how life flows. But when we don't understand dukkha, we resist it. We think we're failing when joy fades. We panic when the body ages. We blame ourselves for feeling discontent. The Buddha's kindness was to say, no, this is not your failure. This is simply how conditioned life is. Birth, aging, sickness, death. Joy loss, gain decline. It is the rhythm of samsara, the wheel of becoming. And so dukkha isn't always dramatic. Often it's quiet. It's in the waiting room, the silent elevator, the unexpected sadness after success, the uncomfortable truth that nothing you buy, nothing you own, no title or relationship or possession can offer permanent peace. But here's what's important. Recognizing dukkha isn't an invitation to despair. It's an invitation to look deeper. There's a stillness under the ache. Imagine standing in the middle of a busy city street. Horns honk, people rush past, neon lights flicker, and then suddenly, all the sound fades. You realize, beneath the chaos, there's a silence that has always been there. Recognizing dukkha is like that. You don't stop the traffic, but you become aware that you are not the traffic. You are the one who notices. And the more you notice, the more space you find. Space between thoughts. Space between craving and clinging. Space between pain and the one who watches the pain. This space is sacred. It is where the teachings begin to live. Sometimes we think spirituality is about feeling blissful all the time. But the Buddha never promised bliss. He promised clarity. And with clarity comes peace, not because suffering disappears, but because we are no longer entangled in it. So tonight, as you lie back or breathe softly, ask yourself, not with judgment, but with gentleness, where does dukkha live in me? Is it in the fear of being alone, the disappointment of never being enough, the longing for things to stay the same? Let those questions rest in your chest. No need to answer them right away. Just hold them as you would a sleeping child. Because the truth is, suffering isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's a whisper, a call, a bell ringing far in the distance saying, "Come home. Come home to what is real. Come home to what is passing. Come home to what is present." The Buddha's first truth is not a wall, it's a doorway. And as we move forward gently together, we begin to see, to know suffering is not to be defeated by it. It is to begin the journey of being free from it. Let's stay with that knowing. Let it settle into your breath, into the quiet room around you, into the silence between these words. Everything changes. Everything passes. But your awareness, gentle open, still remains. And that is where our next step begins. There's something quiet in you right now. It might be the stillness between breaths. It might be the hush that follows a realization. Or perhaps it's the gentle fatigue of carrying thoughts too long and finally setting them down. In this soft space, we begin to unfold the layers of our discontent, not to dwell in them, but to understand how deeply they shape our lives. The first noble truth reminds us, suffering is not only about grand tragedies. Often it's in the small, ordinary places. So let's explore these hidden layers of dukkha, the subtle undercurrents that live beneath our daily actions. Because to recognize them is to loosen their hold on us. One of the most common forms is the dissatisfaction that comes with change. You might not notice it at first, but it's there quietly present every time something good comes to an end. A good meal finishes, a song ends, a warm hug loosens, and a part of the mind whispers, "Stay, just a little longer." Even joy becomes a source of tension when we try to make it last forever. And then there's the suffering of loss. Not just loss of people, but of versions of ourselves. The way we used to look, the dreams we didn't fulfill, the simplicity of youth, the passing of moments we didn't know were precious until they were gone. These small griefs accumulate, layer upon layer. Some days, it's not a specific pain that weighs you down. It's the quiet sadness that life moves on without asking if you're ready. This is dukkha. It also shows up in comparison. You scroll past someone else's perfect life and a shadow crosses your mind. You feel behind, less than, and without realizing it, your contentment slips away. This too is dukkha, and it can arise in moments of fear. The fear of not being enough, the fear of losing control, the fear of aging of being misunderstood, of missing out. None of these are faults. They are part of the human condition. But what transforms them is awareness. Because when you start to recognize these patterns gently, without judgment, you begin to disarm them. Take a moment now. Think of something you've been clinging to lately. A desire, an image of how things should be, a plan, a version of yourself. And then ask, what happens if I stop trying to hold it so tightly, not abandon it, just soften your grip? You might notice that the clinging itself was the source of tension. The idea that you had to keep things a certain way. That peace could only come when everything aligned. But peace doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. Peace begins the moment you stop arguing with the way things are. Even boredom is a kind of dukkha. That restless feeling when the moment isn't stimulating enough and the mind starts reaching, grasping, checking, scrolling. We avoid stillness because we're afraid of what might surface. But underneath the boredom is often grief or loneliness or a longing to be seen. And if we can sit with that just for a while, something remarkable happens. Stillness opens. And in that stillness, you begin to feel your own depth. The Buddha did not teach these truths to make us fearful. He taught them so we could begin to see what's always been happening within us, so subtly we barely noticed. And once we notice, we are no longer trapped. Tonight, you might be lying in bed, listening in the quiet, and feeling the gentle ache of one of these hidden forms of suffering. Don't run from it. Just observe it. Hold it lightly, as if you were sitting with a friend who is hurting, and you simply placed a hand on theirs, not to fix them, not to talk them out of it, but just to say, I see you. I'm here. That's what mindfulness can be. A warm presence, a silent companionship, a light in the room that says you don't have to hide. The Buddha's teachings, especially on the First Noble Truth, are not about labeling life as negative. They're about removing the illusion that suffering only happens to the unlucky, or the broken, or the flawed. No, suffering is part of life. And once you see that clearly, the fear begins to ease. You realize you're not the only one. You're part of a shared human story. And just as suffering is shared, so is healing. And that healing begins not by rushing away from pain, but by looking at it with soft eyes. So let us continue breath by breath into that healing space. We'll explore next how we respond to pain, because the way we meet suffering often shapes whether it deepens or dissolves. But for now, just rest here in this awareness. Let it hold you. Let it settle you. Let it whisper, you are not alone. There's a moment when a storm softens. The wind slows, the rain eases, and though the sky remains gray, there's a strange peace that settles over the land. Not because the storm has vanished completely, but because we begin to sense it will pass. That is where we are tonight. We've named the storm Suffering Dukkha. We've begun to see its many faces, some loud, others soft and quiet. And now we begin to explore something tender and powerful, how we respond to our pain. Because it is not just the pain itself that causes us to suffer, it is our reaction to it. Our clinging, our resistance, our stories about what it should be instead. The Buddha once said, pain is certain, but suffering is optional. At first this might feel confusing. Isn't pain the suffering? But he was pointing to something deeper. Let me offer you a simple image. You're walking through the forest. Suddenly, you're struck by an arrow. That's pain raw, immediate, undeniable. Now imagine you pick up a second arrow and pierce yourself with it right next to the first. Why? Because your mind begins to say, why me? This shouldn't have happened. I always get hurt. This pain will never go away. I must be broken. That second arrow is suffering. It's what the mind adds on top of the pain. And that second arrow we do to ourselves. You see, pain is natural, but suffering is layered. And here's the good news. We can begin to unlayer it. Tonight, ask yourself gently, what are the second arrows I tend to shoot? Is it blame, resentment, shame? The belief that you're not allowed to feel hurt. Sometimes we are taught without words that showing pain is weakness, that we must stay strong, move on, be positive. But in doing so, we often abandon ourselves. So let's take a different path, one the Buddha walked. When pain arises, let's try meeting it with mindfulness, with presence, with kindness. Rather than pushing it away, we say, I see you, I'm here. It's like holding a crying child. You don't ask them to explain their sorrow immediately. You hold them, rock them. Let their sobs soften in your arms. Only then does the healing begin. You might think, but how do I do that with myself? Begin small. The next time you feel discomfort, physical, emotional, or mental pause, name it gently. This is sadness. Or this is fear. This is loneliness. And then breathe with it. Just 3 slow breaths while keeping that emotion company as if it were a guest. This is the practice. You're not suppressing. You're not dramatizing. You're just being with it. The Buddha called this sati mindful awareness. It's not cold observation. It's a warm presence. A knowing that doesn't cling or push away. Over time, you'll notice something beautiful. When you meet suffering with kindness, it begins to shift. It may not disappear immediately, but it stops growing. Instead of spiraling into thoughts, blame, and fear, the pain simply becomes what it is. A passing wave, a ripple on the surface of a vast calm lake. And the lake is your awareness. This is why meditation isn't about clearing the mind. It's about creating space for whatever arises so it can come and it can go. You become less like a leaf tossed in the wind and more like the tree rooted in the earth. Yes, storms will shake you, but you'll remain. And every time you stay present with your experience without judgment, without resistance, you grow stronger. Not stronger in a rigid, hardened way, but in the soft strength of wisdom, of compassion, of knowing yourself deeply. Tonight, as you lie quietly, maybe place a hand on your heart. Feel its rhythm. That heart has been with you through every joy, every grief, every uncertainty. It has carried you, and now you can carry it with awareness, with gentleness. This is the first path out of suffering, not by fixing the pain, but by changing how we meet it. And as we do, moment by moment, breath by breath, something shifts. We begin to remember, I am not my pain. I am the one who sees it, and that seeing is already healing. Tonight, let's imagine you're standing in front of a mirror, but not just any mirror. This one doesn't reflect your appearance. It reflects your reactions to pain, to discomfort, to change, to life not going the way you wanted. And in that mirror, something tender becomes visible, the quiet ways we resist what is. Sometimes we do it by pretending everything is fine. Sometimes by numbing, scrolling, binging, avoiding distracting. Sometimes by tightening our chest, clenching our jaw, or pushing people away. But underneath all these patterns, there is usually just one thing, a wish that life would be different than it is. This wish is not bad, it's human. But when we grasp it too tightly, suffering grows. This is where the second noble truth begins to open for us. The Buddha said, the origin of suffering is craving tanha. Not just any desire, but a thirsty, restless longing, a kind of mental gripping. Tanha can take many forms. We crave pleasure. We crave permanence. We crave identity, meaning validation. We crave for pain to stop for joy, to last for things to feel under control. And most of the time, we don't even notice it. It's subtle, like a background app on your phone, draining all the energy. Craving says this moment isn't enough. You need more. You should be somewhere else, someone else doing something better. And so, the mind becomes a wanderer, never resting, never arriving. This endless craving is what the Buddha saw so clearly under the Bodhi tree. He traced his own suffering back not to what was happening around him, but to how his mind clung to what he wanted and pushed away what he didn't. He saw how this clinging was the fuel that kept the fire of suffering burning. And that's why he taught, from craving arises sorrow, from craving arises fear. But one who is free from craving has no sorrow or fear. Tonight, let's gently examine the small cravings in your heart. There's no need to feel guilty. This isn't about shame. This is about seeing clearly. Maybe you're longing for someone to finally understand you, or for life to feel like it used to, or for your worries to vanish overnight. Cravings aren't always bad. Some desires are natural, like the wish to be safe, loved, peaceful. But when we grip them tightly, believing we must have them to be okay, we lose our center. It's like holding a flame too close to your skin. Eventually, you'll get burned. What happens when we see craving and simply name it? You might try whispering to yourself, this is longing. This is wishing. This is wanting things to be different. Just the act of naming begins to soften its grip. You become the watcher, not the puppet. The mind says, I'll be happy when... But your heart knows peace begins now. Not when things change, but when your relationship to them changes. So how do we begin to let go? Not by force, not by denying what we feel, but by seeing through craving's promise. Because every time it says, once you get this, you'll be complete, and you get it, you find yourself still longing. Why? Because what you truly seek isn't more, it's enough. And enough lives here. In presence, in breath, in acceptance. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your body just as it is. No improvement needed, no achievement required, no one to impress, nowhere else to be. Just this moment. This is where the fire begins to cool. This is the path to peace. We'll explore soon how this fire can be fully extinguished, how the third noble truth offers not just insight, but liberation. But tonight, for now, you only need to know this every time you see craving arise, and choose presence instead. You are already free, even if just for a breath, and one breath of freedom is enough to change your life. Let's stay with that breath for a while, not to control it, not to force stillness, but simply to feel it, to notice here is life unfolding. And in this breath, you might begin to sense how craving disguises itself, sometimes gentle, sometimes seductive. It doesn't always shout, it whispers. This section, dear friend, is where we meet those whispers and learn their names. Because craving, the origin of suffering, as the Buddha taught, isn't just one single shape. It takes many forms. Some are familiar, others are hidden beneath layers of habit. The teachings speak of three primary forms of craving. 1. Craving for sense pleasures, kama tanha. 2. Craving for existence or becoming bhava tanha. 3. Craving for non-existence or annihilation, vibhava tanha. Let's gently unfold each of them like petals. First, craving for sense pleasures. This is perhaps the easiest to recognize. You see a beautiful object, you want it. You hear a sweet voice, you long for more. You taste something delicious, you crave another bite. It's not wrong to enjoy these things. The Buddha never taught repression. But when our well-being depends on these fleeting experiences, we suffer. Because the nature of sense pleasure is impermanence. That taste fades. That song ends. That praise gets forgotten. And if peace depends on pleasure, lasting peace will always be beyond reach. Next, we look at craving for becoming. This one's a bit more subtle. It shows up in the desire to be someone, to achieve something, to become enlightened even. Have you ever felt restless with who you are now? Felt like peace lies in some future version of yourself? If only I were more confident, more disciplined, more healed. This is becoming. The mind says, not yet. You're not there yet. And so it postpones peace to a tomorrow that never quite arrives. But what if even as you grow, you are already complete? What if peace isn't about becoming, but returning? Returning to this breath, this body, this moment. Now the third form is perhaps the most hidden craving for non-existence. It sounds extreme, but it's more common than we think. It arises when we want to escape, disappear, numb out. I don't want to feel this. I wish I could vanish. I just want this part of me to be gone. It can come with depression, with shame, with deep exhaustion. Sometimes it masquerades as a spiritual wish wanting ego to be destroyed or pain to be wiped away. But peace doesn't come from annihilation. It comes from understanding, from gentleness, from being with life as it is. So we begin to notice, when are we reaching for pleasure to distract ourselves? When are we chasing, becoming, because we think we are not enough now? When are we wishing life away, trying not to exist in this moment? Each of these is Tanha. Each of these is craving. And each can be met not with judgment, but with kindness. Because the opposite of craving is not force, it's contentment. Contentment is a soft smile at life, a quiet yes to what is here. Not because everything is perfect, but because we are no longer at war with reality. When the Buddha discovered these truths, he didn't cast them like commandments. He shared them like a doctor offering a diagnosis, not to blame, but to help. He saw the illness, he understood the cause, and he offered the path to healing. You're not wrong for craving. You're human, but now you see. And when you see, you can choose. You can notice desire and still be still. You can hear the whisper more, and answer with a breath. Know this is enough. Tonight, as you drift deeper into this gentle listening, you might let go of one small craving, not forever, just for now. It could be the craving to fix everything before you sleep, the craving for someone else to understand, the craving to feel different than you do. Lay it down. Let your body be heavy. Let your mind rest like a leaf on still water. And listen not for answers, but for quiet. In that quiet, a soft voice arises, the voice of freedom. Let's sit by the river of the mind a little longer tonight. Have you noticed how some thoughts drift in like fallen leaves? Harmless, fleeting, while others swirl in like storm currents, pulling us into their force. Many of those strong currents come from craving, but not always the obvious kind. In this section, we begin to explore how craving doesn't only point outward. It often turns inward, crafting identities, shaping stories, building illusions of self. This is the craving to be, to become, to hold onto a version of ourselves so tightly we forget we were never meant to be frozen. Imagine a potter shaping clay into a bowl. As long as the clay remains soft, it can be reshaped, adjusted. But once it's fired in the kiln, it becomes fixed. Craving, when mixed with identity, is like that kiln. We take an experience, a belief, a label, and we bake it into our sense of self. I'm the anxious one. I'm the achiever. I'm the failure. I'm the healer. I'm broken. I'm enlightened. And each of those stories clung to, without awareness, becomes a kind of prison. Why do we cling? Because identity feels safe. Even painful identities give us a sense of solidity. At least I know who I am, the mind says. But the Dharma whispers otherwise. The Buddha spoke often of Anatta non-self, not as a denial of your existence, but as an invitation to loosen the grip. To realize you are not a fixed thing. You are a process, a happening, a flowing river. And yet, craving comes in and builds a dam. It says, I must become this. I must be seen as that. I must preserve this version of myself. But at what cost? That dam holds back not just pain, but also freedom. It resists change, resists vulnerability, resists the natural unfolding of your being. When we cling to self-image, even spiritual self-image, we suffer. The path to peace begins when we allow those images to soften. Here's a reflection you might try gently. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to about myself? It could be a strength, a wound, a role, a past version, a future hope. And then ask, who would I be without this story? Notice what arises, not to judge it, but to meet it with spaciousness. Sometimes we fear letting go of identity because we think we'll become empty, lost, formless. But the Dharma reveals something else in the space left behind. Compassion expands. Wisdom breathes. You begin to live not as a concept, but as awareness itself. You don't disappear. You become more true. Not a role, not a performance, but presence. This, too, is part of the second noble truth. Because clinging to selfhood is also craving, and letting it go is also liberation. Now be gentle. This letting go isn't an overnight act. You don't have to abandon all identities in a flash. Just start noticing when you tighten. When someone criticizes you, what identity is being threatened? When you feel proud, what self are you holding high? When you feel ashamed, what version of you are you protecting? Seeing clearly is the beginning of release. It's like loosening your grip on a rope that's been burning your hands. You may not drop it all at once, but even the loosening is relief. And so the practice becomes softer. You might whisper inwardly, I am not this thought. I am not this label. I am not this craving to be something. You are here, breathing, aware, alive. That is enough. Let go of needing to define and feel what remains. Not a hollow space, but a wide open sky. Tonight, as you rest, allow your mind to float freely without needing to land anywhere. You don't have to be anyone right now. Not the good one. Not the tired one. Not even the seeker. Just rest. You are already whole. There's a sound the wind makes when it passes through a field of tall grass. It's not quite a song, not quite a whisper. It's something in between, soft, ungraspable, always moving. That's what the Buddha meant when he spoke of Anicca impermanence. Not just in things around us, but within us too. Not just in moments, but in thoughts, feelings, cravings, and even the sense of self we explored earlier. Tonight, we begin to see how deeply impermanence and craving are connected. Because craving, at its core, is a protest against change. It says, this moment isn't enough. Let it stay longer. Or let it vanish faster. We grasp the joyful moments we want to hold them still. We reject the painful ones, we want them gone now. But what if we could soften both urges? Imagine you're standing by the sea. Each wave arrives, crests dissolves into foam, and pulls away. You don't try to keep the wave from leaving. You don't panic when a large one arrives. You watch. You breathe. You remain. That's the posture of wisdom. And that's the beginning of freedom from suffering. Because the truth is, everything you experience is passing. This breath, this thought, this sorrow, this delight, this version of you. When we cling, we resist this river of change. We dam it up. We panic when it moves too fast or slows down. But the more we practice allowing, truly allowing something quiet, emerges equanimity. Not indifference, not suppression, but a calm abiding with what is. We begin to see pleasure arise and smile, knowing it will pass. We feel discomfort, and we soften, knowing it too will pass. And slowly, the mind stops making so much noise, because it no longer needs to fight reality. This was one of the Buddha's deepest realizations. That suffering arises not from the world, but from our refusal to let the world be as it is. Even now, listen to your body. Notice any places where tension lingers. Is it in the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach? Often, these are not just physical tensions, but the body holding on to something. A thought, a memory, a should have, a what if. You might gently say to that place, you can soften now. It's safe to let go, because letting go doesn't mean losing something. It means allowing something to flow. And impermanence doesn't mean despair. It means possibility. Because nothing is fixed, everything can change. Every sorrow can soften. Every anger can quiet. Every illusion can dissolve. And through it all, your awareness remains. Like the sky, watching the clouds. When you understand impermanence, you stop clinging. And when you stop clinging, you stop suffering. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means your feelings stop owning you. Joy becomes lighter. Sadness becomes gentler. Life becomes more precious. Because you know nothing lasts. And so everything matters. The cup you hold tonight, the face you saw today, the breath you are taking right now. Each is a one-time gift. Isn't that beautiful? Impermanence doesn't steal meaning from life. It gives it. And when you accept change, you don't drift further from peace. You enter it. You become someone who can hold both the bloom and the falling leaf. Someone who can sit with joy and sorrow at the same table. Someone who can say, I don't need to hold this moment still, because I trust the next one will carry me too. Tonight, as you drift into rest, know this: the thoughts you carry can be set down. The feelings you feared will last forever. They too will shift. Even craving, even clinging, will pass. And beneath all that motion, you remain. Still, spacious, free. Let us stay in this space where breath becomes slower and the heart quieter, where you begin to understand not as a thought, but as a felt truth, that nothing you experience needs to be held too tightly, because everything by its very nature will change. And it is within this constant change that the seeds of peace are hidden. So, tonight, let's look deeper at something you may not have fully noticed yet: the subtle craving for permanence. It's not as obvious as craving for pleasure or identity, but it's deeply rooted. It shows up when we say things like, I hope this never ends. I wish things could stay like this forever. I don't want anything to change. You might recognize it in moments of happiness when everything feels right and the thought of losing it brings fear. Or in moments of sorrow when we fear we'll never escape the heaviness we're feeling. This craving for permanence is born from the illusion that security can be found in fixed things. But life is a river, not a stone. The Buddha once compared existence to a bubble, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning, a dream. Not to say that life is meaningless, far from it, but to help us wake up from the belief that anything here is stable, guaranteed, or lasting. And that paradoxically is what opens the door to deeper peace. Because when you no longer demand that things stay the same, you begin to truly live. You savor without gripping. You grieve without collapsing. You love without fear. It's not detachment in the cold sense. It's freedom with open hands. Imagine again that you're walking through a garden. Every flower you pass is in bloom, but you don't pick them. You let each one remain where it is. You enjoy its fragrance, its color, and then you move on. That's how the wise walk through life. They don't try to own the garden. They bless each moment, then release it. Can you feel the relief in that? Because so much of our inner turmoil comes from trying to freeze what cannot be frozen. Youth, relationships, health, certainty, even moods. I want to feel like this forever becomes another chain. But when we allow life to breathe, it breathes through us. We become soft, fluid, grounded not in permanence, but in presence. And presence is always available, not in the next day, not after everything settles, not when you've healed, but here, in this breath, this soft heartbeat, this quiet noticing. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught Nibbana, not as a place or a state to achieve later, but as a cooling of the fire of clinging here and now, a peaceful heart in the middle of a changing world. It's not something to chase, it's something to uncover beneath the layers of craving. So, tonight you might try this gentle reflection. As thoughts pass through, ask, is this something I'm trying to make permanent? And then invite yourself to soften. Like clouds passing through the sky, let it be. Let the joy rise and fall. Let the fear visit and leave. Let the craving float and dissolve. You are the sky. Everything else is weather. And in the stillness of that sky, you may begin to feel it. A peace that isn't dependent. A quiet that doesn't cling. A love that doesn't need to possess. This is the kind of freedom the Buddha pointed to. Not a freedom from pain, but a freedom within it. Not a life without change, but a heart that welcomes change without fear. Tonight may you rest in that truth. May you feel yourself as part of the great unfolding, and may that knowing bring you closer to ease. Now that the waves of craving have begun to quiet, and the winds of impermanence have passed gently through our awareness, we arrive at something precious. The possibility of stillness. Not the stillness of an empty room or a paused clock, but the stillness within you that has always been there, waiting beneath the noise of becoming. Tonight, let us sit with this stillness. Let us begin to feel the peace that arises, not because things are perfect, but because we're no longer at war with how things are. In the Buddhist path, there's a word for this resting place of the heart, upekkha equanimity. It is the soft strength of the heart that knows joy will come and joy will go. Pain will rise and pain will pass. But I am here unmoved in the deepest sense. Equanimity isn't coldness. It isn't apathy or resignation. It is love that doesn't cling, compassion that trusts the unfolding, wisdom that walks calmly in the fire, and perhaps tonight you're beginning to glimpse it, the space in you that can hold all things without being broken by any of them. Equanimity is not something we force. It is something that grows naturally as we let go. As craving loosens, as impermanence is accepted, as the self-story softens. A person once asked the Buddha, "What is the path to peace?" And he replied, not with rules, but with seeing. Seeing how suffering arises. Seeing where it comes from. Seeing how it fades. Seeing the path that leads to that fading. This is the Four Noble Truths. And by now you've already begun to walk it. You've touched the first truth, recognizing suffering. You've entered the second, seeing craving and clinging. And now, in the light of that, seeing the third truth begins to shine. Suffering can cease. Let those words sink in. Not just be reduced, not just managed, but ended. This is not some distant promise. It is a moment-to-moment reality. Every time you soften around pain, every time you stop chasing what you thought you needed, every time you remember that the breath is enough, that is a moment free from suffering. Liberation is not later, it's now. Whenever you let go, even for a breath, you taste freedom. This is the third noble truth, Niroda, the cessation of suffering. It's like a fire that's no longer fed. The flame goes out, not because it was destroyed, but because there's nothing left to burn. You can feel that flame lowering now, perhaps just a little. No great fanfare, no sudden transformation, just the quiet softening of your grip on the world. You don't need to push anything away. You don't need to hold anything tighter. What a gentle kind of miracle. Tonight, as you continue to lie here, perhaps already halfway into sleep, you might feel how good it is to need nothing more than this moment, to be held not by the world, but by presence, not by answers, but by awareness, not by having, but by being. And in that being, may you taste the stillness of the Buddha's own heart, the stillness that knows, I have seen the path, I have walked it, and I am free. That freedom, dear listener, is not only his, it is yours too. You don't need to become anyone else. You don't need to leave where you are. You only need to let yourself be here, with kindness, with courage, with quiet eyes open to the truth. And then, like a lotus blooming in silence, peace will unfold from within. Tonight we sit more fully with that third noble truth, the beautiful, almost unbelievable possibility that suffering can end, not through escape, not through denial, but through gentle knowing and release. The Buddha used a word that's hard to translate perfectly, Niroda. It means cessation, stopping, the extinguishing of something that once burned. But what does that actually feel like? It's not a dramatic void. It's not numbness. It's not erasing the world. It's stillness, like a bell that has rung fully and is now silent, like a fire that once roared and now flickers no more. This is the taste of freedom from craving. So let's bring it closer. Imagine you're holding a heavy bag. You've carried it all day. It's cutting into your shoulder. But you've gotten so used to it, you don't even notice anymore. Then someone gently says, you can put it down. And for a moment you hesitate, because it's yours. You've held it for so long it feels like part of you. But finally, you set it on the ground. And what do you feel? Relief. Surprise. Lightness. Maybe even tears. That is Niroda. It's not about never picking up another burden. It's about knowing deeply that you don't always have to carry it. It's about discovering the freedom that was waiting all along. When suffering stops, even just for a moment, it leaves space. And in that space, other things can grow. Joy, gratitude, compassion, clarity. So tonight, ask yourself softly, what burden have I been carrying? that is ready to be set down. It might be a story about who you are. It might be a resentment towards someone long gone. It might be a fear about tomorrow. Let it come to mind. Not to fight it, not to fix it, just to see it clearly. And then, in the quiet of your heart, say, I see you. I don't need to hold you anymore. You can rest now. Even if the burden doesn't vanish right away, even if it returns again tomorrow, that's okay. Freedom isn't about perfect escape. It's about gentle remembering. Each time you remember, I don't need to grasp this, you loosen the knot. Each time you choose stillness over struggle, you grow a little more free. The third noble truth is not a distant goal. It's not a promise made to saints or sages. It is an invitation for you right now to feel what happens when you don't resist what is, when you stop asking the moment to be different, when you stop reaching for the next thing to fix your heart, and just breathe and rest and let the world be. Niroda is the silence after the storm. It is the soft light before dawn. It is the sacred enough that echoes in your bones. Tonight, may you taste that quiet, even just for a few breaths. Let the inner fires cool. Let your hands be empty. Let your heart be full, not from possessing, but from being. Remember this, you don't have to chase peace. Peace is what arises when chasing ends. And in this stillness, in this ordinary breath, you are already free. Now that you've felt the quiet hush of letting go, now that the weight begins to dissolve from your shoulders, we arrive gently at the fourth noble truth, the final thread that weaves the path together. The Buddha did not just stop at saying suffering exists and it can end. He gave us something even more precious, a way to walk forward, a path to peace. It is called the Noble Eightfold Path, and tonight we'll take our first slow step onto it. But not with pressure, not with demands, just with the same softness we've been growing together. Imagine a lantern-lit path through a forest. The way isn't harsh or difficult, it's clear. Each light ahead of you reveals just enough for the next step. That's what this path feels like. The Eightfold Path is not a list to check off. It's not about becoming perfect. It's a gentle set of directions, a compass for the heart. And though there are 8 aspects, they're not 8 separate lines they weave like threads in a single cloth. The path begins with right view. Not right as in correct, and someone else is wrong, but right as in aligned. Wise, nourishing, grounded in truth. Right view grows from everything we've been reflecting on. That suffering exists, that craving feeds it, that peace is possible, that you don't need to be a prisoner of your patterns. When you hold this view in your heart, you begin to live with eyes open. You stop stumbling in the dark, and with that view, something begins to shift. You stop blaming the world when things fall apart. You stop clinging to illusions of control. You begin to walk through each moment with a kind of humble understanding. This is just a part of life's rhythm. It's not punishment. It's not personal. It's just the flow of cause and effect karma. Right view helps you respond instead of react. You pause before anger. You smile at change. You trust that storms will pass. And perhaps most beautifully, right view opens the door to compassion. Because when you truly see your own suffering, you begin to see the suffering of others too. Not as something separate from yours, but as something shared. We are all on this same path, hurting, hoping healing. And so the heart softens, and peace becomes not just a personal refuge, but something you begin to offer the world. That's the fruit of right view. It doesn't promise a life without hardship. but it promises that your heart doesn't have to collapse in the face of it. Tonight, feel the tenderness of that understanding. Know that seeing clearly is the beginning of walking freely. And rest in the comfort of knowing you don't need to figure everything out. You only need to keep walking gently in the direction of peace. With each breath, each pause, each moment of letting go, you are already on the path, and that is enough. With right view, gently held in your heart, the path unfolds further, and the next step is one that begins to shape your words, your tone, your way of touching the world. It is called right intention. And in the stillness of tonight, you might feel how deeply intentions shape everything. Before any word leaves your lips, before any choice is made, before even a thought becomes fully formed, there is intention. Like a seed in the earth, long before a tree appears, your inner motives quietly guide your entire path. So the Buddha invites us not only to act or speak wisely, but to intend wisely. Right intention is not about striving. It's about aligning your heart, letting your inner compass turn gently toward freedom, toward peace, toward compassion. There are three core intentions the Buddha spoke of here. The intention of renunciation, letting go of craving. The intention of non-ill will, choosing kindness over hatred. The intention of harmlessness, walking gently, doing no harm. These might sound lofty, but they are deeply human. You already know them in some way. You've felt the peace of not needing more. You've felt the lightness of forgiving someone. You've known the quiet joy of helping without needing anything back. Those are the fruits of right intention. So tonight, in the soft folds of this night's silence, you might ask yourself gently, what lives behind my words? What do I truly wish for others? What would it be like to wish no harm at all? This isn't about perfection. It's about orientation, direction. It's about returning again and again to the heart's deepest wish. May all beings be free from suffering, even if the mind is busy, even if emotions stir. This deep wish is always within reach. Right intention is not rigid. It's a soft flame that you keep alive. Some days it flickers. Other days it glows strong, but it never leaves you. And the more you remember it, the more it begins to shape your life. Imagine waking each morning with a quiet whisper. Today I will let go of what I don't need. Today I will meet pain with kindness. Today I will do as little harm as I can. Not as pressure, not as command, but as a gentle promise to the heart. And when you fall short, because we all do, right intention invites you to begin again, to remember that even a step off the path can lead to a clearer return. So tonight, perhaps your breath can be your intention. Let each inhale be filled with goodwill. Let each exhale release a bit of holding. Breathe peace in. Breathe harm out. And as you drift into sleep, know that your path is already unfolding, that your heart is already practicing, that your deepest wish for peace is already a form of freedom. May you rest in that knowing. And may your sleep be shaped by the softest intentions. With right view, as your eyes and right intention, as your heart's compass, the path naturally begins to speak. And so tonight, we arrive at the next gentle step, right speech. This part of the path is not just about what you say, but how you say it, why you say it, and what you leave unsaid when silence is more loving. In the world, we live in words swirl around us constantly. They fill our days, our screens, our relationships, even our thoughts. But how many of those words bring peace? How many stir the waters of anger or worry or restlessness? Right speech is not about speaking perfectly. It's about speaking mindfully, with awareness, with care, with compassion. The Buddha offered a beautiful guide here, 4 kinds of speech that support freedom. Speak truthfully, speak kindly, speak helpfully, speak at the right time. Imagine carrying these 4 in your pocket, letting them guide your voice like soft lanterns. Before you speak, you might ask, is this true? Is this kind? Is this useful? Is this the right moment? And if the answer is no, perhaps silence is the kinder gift. Because silence, when held with wisdom, can be a deep form of love. In this night's quiet, notice the words you've carried today, the ones you've spoken to others, and the ones you've spoken to yourself. Did they nourish? Did they wound? Did they lift someone or press them down? And if some words came with sharpness, can you forgive yourself? Even this is part of right speech. The willingness to be honest, to grow gentler, to speak again, more kindly this time. Right speech includes the words within your own mind too. That voice that narrates your day, that whispers before sleep, that sometimes judges, sometimes comforts. Can you let your inner voice become your spiritual friend, not scolding, not blaming, but gently guiding, speaking to yourself like someone you love, because truly you are listening, and each word sows a seed. Will it bloom as peace or grow into more tension? Tonight, as your body settles deeper into rest, you might imagine your thoughts softening into whispers. Not heavy lectures, not rushed conversations, just a simple rhythm, like waves touching the shore. I am safe now. I am enough now. I can rest now. Let these words be the lullaby of your path. Let right speech begin within and slowly ripple outward into the world. And tomorrow, if you speak at all, may your words be like cool water, healing, soothing, true. And if you remain silent, may your silence also be filled with kindness. This is the power of speech when aligned with peace. It doesn't need volume. It needs only presence. Let your voice become a refuge. Let your breath carry blessings. And let your sleep tonight be cradled in silence that heals. And now, from the roots of right view, the compass of right intention, and the soft power of right speech, the next natural step is how we live outwardly. This is right action. It sounds like something strict or rule-bound at first, but in the gentle spirit of the path. Right action is something much more human. It's the invitation to live in a way that doesn't harm, to move through the world like a blessing, to walk in such a way that your footsteps leave peace behind. The Buddha gave us a simple guide for right action, a kind of code that helps us pause and reflect. Do not kill, honor all life. Do not steal, respect what is not freely given. Do not misuse sexuality. Let love be rooted in care and integrity. These are not commandments. They are reflections, mirrors you can hold up to your life and ask, is this action coming from peace or from grasping? Will this bring harm or healing? Right action isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware. It's about beginning again each time you fall. It's the kindness of choosing not to step on an ant, the integrity of returning a lost wallet, the courage of ending a habit that causes pain. But it's also much more subtle. Right action can be the moment you choose to listen instead of interrupt, the moment you place your phone down to look someone in the eyes, the moment you say, "I'm sorry," without defending your ego. It is presence in motion. Tonight, as you rest here, you might feel how peaceful it is to know your actions were clean today, or if they weren't, to know that tomorrow can be different. Because each new breath is a new vow. You don't need to wait for a special moment to begin. Right. Action begins the next time you choose gentleness over reactivity. The next time you hold your tongue out of love. The next time you offer a hand instead of a harsh word. The body is a tool of peace. Hands that can comfort. Feet that can walk toward understanding. Eyes that can see truth without judgment. What a miracle it is to live in a body that can serve goodness. Let your actions become part of your meditation, not just on the cushion, but in the kitchen, in traffic in your family. Right. Action turns every moment of life into spiritual practice. It does not require robes. It does not require retreat. It only requires care. And tonight, as you lie, still perhaps offer this quiet vow to yourself. May my actions tomorrow bring no harm. May I be a vessel of kindness. May my steps leave soft prints behind. Let that wish settle into your body like warmth. Let it anchor you in the world, not with grasping, but with grace. Because the path of awakening is not apart from daily life. It is your life. One mindful action at a time. With your actions aligned in peace, your footsteps soft in the world, we now arrive at the way you sustain yourself. The next gentle step on the path is right livelihood. This part of the Eightfold Path may seem practical, but it reaches deep into the heart of how you live. Because how you make your living, what you give your energy to each day, shapes your inner world too. The Buddha taught that right livelihood means earning your living in ways that do not bring harm, not harming others, not harming animals, not harming the earth, and perhaps most often, forgotten not harming yourself. He advised avoiding professions rooted in violence, dishonesty, or exploitation. But beyond that, he invited each of us to bring mindfulness and ethics into our daily work. Not all of us can be monks. Not all of us can choose perfect careers, but we can each choose how we show up for the work we do. So tonight, in this stillness, reflect softly. What do you give most of your waking hours to? Does it support peace, or does it pull you into craving comparison or harm? Even if your job is stressful, even if you can't change it tomorrow, there is still a path. Because right livelihood isn't only about what you do, it's about the spirit in which you do it. Are you honest? Are you kind to coworkers, clients, customers? Do you treat your time and others' time as sacred? You might be a teacher, a nurse, a parent, a builder, an artist, whatever your role. Right? Livelihood means remembering that your energy is sacred. It means asking, am I nourishing others or draining them? Am I working from compassion or fear? Is my work contributing to a better world or just more noise? And when the answer is unclear, when you feel trapped or unsure, right? Livelihood reminds you, you can always choose integrity. Even if the system is broken, you can still offer wholeness. Even if the world rushes toward profit, you can still walk slowly with purpose. You can choose to be honest when others cut corners. You can choose to rest when others glorify burnout. You can choose to create beauty when the world forgets how. Right? Livelihood isn't about being perfect. It's about being aligned. Aligned with compassion. Aligned with truth. Aligned with your own heart. And sometimes, right livelihood means knowing when to leave behind something that breaks your peace. That too is part of the path. But even if you cannot leave today, you can begin with this small vow. May my work tomorrow be guided by kindness. May it bring no harm. May it offer something good to the world. And then rest. Rest knowing that your livelihood too can become part of your meditation. the work of your hands, the focus of your mind, the spirit you carry into the day. They can all reflect the peace you're building within. So let your breath be your first offering. Let your sleep restore the vessel that gives. And let your livelihood, step by step, become an act of love. Now that your work is rooted in care and your life breathes in alignment, the next step on the path begins to touch something even deeper. Something that cannot be seen, but is felt in every movement of the mind. This is right effort. Effort in the teachings of the Buddha is not the frantic striving we often associate with success. It's not forceful, not exhausting. Instead, it is a balanced energy, gentle, steady, and wise. Right effort is the art of tending to your inner garden. You don't yank the weeds out in anger. You don't force the flowers to bloom. You water with care. You remove what stifles. You nourish what brings peace. The Buddha described right effort as having 4 parts, like tending 4 gates of the heart, preventing unwholesome states from arising, abandoning unwholesome states that have already arisen, cultivating wholesome states that have not yet arisen, maintaining and developing wholesome states that are already present. Let's slow down with those. First, preventing unwholesome states. This means noticing the moment before the storm comes, when anger is just a twinge, when craving is just a thought. Right. Effort gently redirects the mind early before the fire spreads. Second, abandoning unwholesome states. This is when you're already upset, already caught, and you pause not to judge yourself, but to soften the grip, to breathe, to say, I see you anger, but I will not follow you today. Third, cultivating wholesome states. This is the joy of beginning, bringing mindfulness into a restless moment, choosing gratitude when the heart feels dull, reaching for peace when the mind forgets it's possible. And fourth, sustaining those wholesome states, like keeping a flame alive, not letting kindness fade just because the day is long, not dropping your calm just because others lose theirs. This is right effort, not harsh discipline, not guilt-laden striving. It is like the gentle tending of a temple lamp, a quiet vow, I will protect this light. You might feel it tonight, this balance, where part of you wants to give up, and another part just wants to rest softly but attentively in awareness. You're not here to fix the whole world. You're here to remember the light within, and that remembering takes effort, but not the kind that drains, the kind that awakens. So ask yourself, what thoughts am I watering? What emotions am I feeding? What habits am I repeating? And what could I tend to that would bring more peace? Tonight, right? Effort might mean choosing to rest your mind gently on your breath. Not perfectly, just lovingly. Let the breath rise. Let it fall. Let it guide you back when your thoughts wander. This too is effort, a peaceful, devoted effort. The kind that leads not to exhaustion, but to clarity. You are the gardener. This moment is your soil. Peace is the flower. Tend to it with care and trust that something beautiful is already growing within you. Now that you've begun to tend the mind gently through right effort, you may start to notice something subtle shift. There is more space between thoughts, more softness in your inner world. And into that space enters the next sacred step of the path, right mindfulness. Of all the teachings, this one may feel the most familiar. Mindfulness is spoken of often now, but in the Buddha's path, it is not merely a technique, it is a way of being. Right mindfulness is not concentration. It is not efforting to stay focused. It is the soft, continuous remembering of what is truly here. It is presence without judgment, awareness without clinging. It is the mirror that sees clearly, but does not grasp or reject. The Buddha offered a profound teaching on this, the four foundations of mindfulness. They are like four windows that help you see clearly: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of mental objects. Let's walk through each together now, slowly and gently. First, mindfulness of the body. This is where the path begins. Feel the breath. Feel the warmth of your body against the sheets. Notice how your chest rises and falls, how the air enters cool and leaves warm. This body is not a concept. It is a living field of sensation, and each breath is a bell calling you home. Second, mindfulness of feelings. Not emotions, but the basic tone beneath them. Is this moment pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? No need to change it, just know it. You might feel calm, or restless, or sleepy. Let it all be part of the unfolding. Third, mindfulness of the mind itself. Is your mind clear or cloudy, expansive or contracted, steady or drifting? No need to control it, only to see it. Like watching the sky shift colors without grasping at the clouds. Fourth, mindfulness of mental objects. These are the patterns that pass through your thoughts: desire, aversion, confusion, or joy, peace, clarity. You might notice the presence of craving or the absence of ill will. Each is simply known, gently labeled, and released. Right mindfulness does not force the mind to behave. It watches the mind with loving curiosity. It says, "Ah, so this is what's here. And now, this." No judgment, no pushing, just a quiet witnessing. Tonight, as you lie still, you might begin to sense the sacredness in this. Even now, as your body rests, your awareness remains a candle in the dark. It notices the itch on your arm, the coolness of the pillow, the tug of a memory, the breath returning, and it holds them all in its embrace. Right mindfulness becomes a way of meeting life moment by moment with dignity and care. It brings peace, not because it changes anything, but because it allows everything to be seen, to be honored, to be held, and then to pass. Because everything will pass. Even this thought, even this breath, even this night. And that is why mindfulness is a refuge. It does not cling. It does not resist. It simply rests. Let your breath tonight be your anchor. Let your awareness be your home. No need to fix anything. Just rest and let life unfold in presence. From this calm shore of mindfulness, where each breath is known and each moment is welcomed, we arrive at the final limb of the Eightfold Path, the crown of the practice, right concentration. You might think of concentration as effort, as holding the mind tightly to a single point. But in the Dharma right, concentration is something softer. It is the gentle, unwavering stillness of a mind fully gathered, not scattered, not divided, but calm, centered, and radiant. The Buddha taught that right concentration leads the heart inward through what are called the four jhana states of deep meditative absorption. Don't worry if these sound far away or mystical. They are simply layers of stillness where the usual noise of the world fades and the sweetness of inner peace deepens. The first jhana arises when the mind is steady on one wholesome object, like the breath and joy and tranquility arise naturally. There is still thought, there is still effort, but the body feels light, the mind feels bright. Then comes the second jhana. The thinking quiets, the joy grows steadier. The mind begins to feel like a still lake, no ripples. In the third, joy softens into contentment. A deep, unshakable peace begins to settle. there is no pushing, no craving, just being. And in the fourth jhana, even that peace becomes serene. No excitement, no sorrow. Only equanimity, the great stillness that watches all without disturbance. But remember, dear one, these states are not goals to chase. You don't need to achieve them. They are not prizes for the perfect meditator. They are natural unfoldings when the mind is free from greed, ill will, and restlessness. And even if you never name these jhanas, you can still taste their flavor. Each time your mind rests without craving, you are touching the current of right concentration. Each time you stay with the breath for more than a moment, you are building this sacred muscle of presence. Right concentration is not about control. It is about surrender. Letting the mind settle like snow, falling to the bottom of a glass. No shaking, no resisting, just stillness. And from that stillness, wisdom arises on its own. You begin to see clearly what is real, what is fleeting, what can be released. Right concentration is a kind of intimacy with reality. No longer distracted by the outer glitter, no longer enslaved by the spinning mind, just resting in the center of your own being. Tonight, as you lie here, you might feel this touch of concentration already blooming. The breath is steady, the body is soft. The thoughts come more slowly now. There's no need to chase insight, no need to be anywhere else. You are already here. Right. Concentration is the art of being completely lovingly present to this breath, to this body, to this still moment. So let yourself fall deeper into rest. Not into sleep just yet, but into this sweet, clear awareness. Let each breath carry you inward. Let your mind gather like petals folding at dusk. And as the Eightfold Path settles into your bones, know that you have walked something sacred. You have remembered something ancient. The capacity to live peacefully, not someday, but now. Right concentration is your returning to stillness, to clarity, to home. Now that we've walked through the Eightfold Path together, step by gentle step, you might wonder, where does it lead? What waits at the end of such a path? The answer is both profound and simple: freedom. Not the kind of freedom sold in the world, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the deeper, sacred freedom to no longer be ruled by craving, fear, and illusion. This is what the Buddha called nirvana, a word that means blowing out like a candle flame, quietly extinguished when the wind has stopped. But nirvana is not nothingness. It is not emptiness in the hollow sense. It is a peace so complete, so undisturbed, that nothing more needs to be added. A letting go so total that suffering no longer sticks. The mind is no longer burning, no longer pulled this way and that, no longer entangled in what comes and goes. And this freedom begins not far away, but exactly where you are. Because each moment of mindfulness is a step out of suffering. Each act of compassion is a moment of liberation. Each breath that isn't ruled by craving is a little taste of awakening. So often we wait. We think peace will come when life is just right, when the past is resolved, when the future is certain, when the body is strong again. But the Buddha gently reminds us, peace doesn't come after everything is perfect. It comes the moment you stop clinging. This is the great paradox of the path. You don't find freedom by chasing it. You find it by releasing the chase. Even now, as you listen, your body resting your breath steady, you can feel it. The world outside may still be noisy. The calendar still full. The future still unknown. But here, in this breath, there is nothing to fix, nothing to earn, nothing missing. Just this awareness, softness, enoughness. And the more you live from that place, the more you trust that it's always available, no matter the circumstances. The Buddha once said that nirvana is not a place, but an unbinding. The fetters fall away. The mind no longer clings. And what remains is not empty, but luminous. And this freedom isn't only for monks on mountaintops. It's for anyone who dares to turn inward, to see clearly, to let go with love. So let your practice tonight be a quiet vow, not to become someone else, not to get somewhere new, but to rest here as you are with compassion, to meet yourself with presence again and again until the flame of suffering gently goes out, and in its place, only peace. Not dramatic, not loud, just the peace of knowing I am free to let go. This is what awaits on the path, not a prize at the end, but a presence that grows with every step taken in mindfulness. And in that presence, there is no more fear, only the freedom of a mind returned home. As the concept of freedom begins to settle in, you may begin to see life through a gentler lens. Now we move from the idea of awakening to the lived practice of it, moment by quiet moment. This is where the teachings become embodied, not as beliefs, but as the way you walk through the world. You are not expected to live a flawless life. There will be moments when the mind forgets, when old habits return, when pain rises like a wave. But now you carry something different. You carry the path. You carry the memory of awareness. You carry the ability to return. And this returning, this coming back to presence, to breath, to clarity, is the real practice. The Buddha himself said, just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too does the Dharma have one taste, the taste of freedom. Even a drop of Dharma can begin to soften the storm in your life. Because when you see clearly, you stop reacting blindly. You start responding with compassion. This is the difference. The awakened life is not about controlling what happens. It's about shifting how you meet it. When someone speaks with harshness, you remember to pause, to breathe, to see their suffering rather than feed your own. When anxiety comes, you place a gentle hand on your heart. You whisper this too. When success comes, you enjoy it without needing to grasp it, without letting it define your worth. You become like the moon on a still lake, present, reflective, unmoved by the ripples beneath. This is not apathy. This is wisdom, to care deeply without clinging, to love fully without fear of loss, to be alive without being caught. Tonight, let this awareness descend into your bones. Let it touch not only the mind, but your muscles, your breath, your heartbeat. You are not just thinking about the Dharma, now you are becoming it. The kindness you offer someone tomorrow, that is right speech. The way you forgive yourself for a mistake, that is right view. The choice to eat slowly, to listen with presence, to stop scrolling. When your mind feels restless, that is right effort. Each of these moments is a mirror of the path. Each one a flame in the great lantern of awakening. And as you walk, you begin to shine, not because you're trying to, but because peace is what arises when the burden of clinging falls away. So tonight, in this hush, know that awakening is not far. It's not reserved for mystics or saints. It's as near as your next breath, as simple as your next act of kindness, as deep as your next moment of stillness. And if your mind forgets tomorrow, that's okay. Just return, with love, with patience. The path is always waiting, like a quiet forest trail, ready when you are. Now, dear friend, we begin to understand something subtle, that the teachings are not meant to be admired from afar. but lived here and now, in this very breath, in this very body, in this very moment. We are not studying a map. We are walking the terrain. And as you walk, something soft begins to awaken in the heart compassion. Not pity, not sorrow, but the deep, intuitive recognition that suffering is not just yours. It is shared. It is human. And because of that, so is healing. When you suffer, you join every being who has ever longed for relief. When you breathe through it with gentleness, you help ease not just your pain, but the world's. This is why the Buddha taught that compassion is the natural fruit of wisdom. When we see clearly, we feel deeply. We stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin to ask, how can I meet this with love? Even now, as you lie still, you may recall someone who is hurting, a friend, a stranger, your own younger self. Can you hold them in your heart, not to fix them, not to rescue them, but to silently wish them peace? This is compassion, a soft reaching outward from a still grounded center, and it doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes compassion is letting someone speak without interrupting. Sometimes it's setting a boundary. Sometimes it's simply not feeding your own anger. The Buddha said, "As a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so, let one cultivate a boundless love toward all beings, not because the world is kind, but because you choose to be, not because others deserve it, but because you suffer less when you love more." And remember, compassion includes yourself. You too are worthy of tenderness, of forgiveness, of beginning again. So if you've stumbled, come back. If you've judged yourself, breathe gently. If you feel unworthy, place your hand over your heart and say, "I see you. You're trying, and that's enough." This practice, repeated quietly, becomes a refuge, a healing balm, and over time, it creates a life that no longer recoils from suffering, but meets it with presence. You become the calm in the storm, not because you're invincible, but because you've stopped running. And in that stillness, you begin to see something else, that beneath the noise, beneath the restlessness, beneath the craving, there is an open, loving space that has never been broken. It's always been here, waiting for your return. So let tonight be a soft landing, a gentle act of self-compassion, a whispered vow that you will not abandon yourself. You are not here to conquer the world. You are here to open your heart to it, one breath, one being, one moment at a time. With compassion now gently resting in your heart, let us turn toward another quiet gift of the path, equanimity. At first, it may seem less radiant than love, less vivid than joy. But equanimity is the stillness that holds them all. It is the deep balance that allows your heart to stay open in both joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame. It does not mean indifference. It does not mean coldness or withdrawal. It means that your heart is steady like a mountain that does not flinch in the wind. Equanimity whispers, "This too is part of the path." When things go well, it does not cling. When things fall apart, it does not collapse. It remains spacious, present, undisturbed at the core. This quality is especially precious in a world of change, where news cycles spin, where relationships evolve, where health rises and falls. Without equanimity, the mind is tossed about like a leaf on stormy waters. But with equanimity, you become the ocean, vast, holding waves, but not being swept by them. The Buddha often spoke of the 8 worldly winds: gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, fame and disrepute. They blow through every life, no matter how wise or kind you are. But with equanimity, you are not pushed over. You feel the wind, yes, but you don't chase it. You learn to smile in success without needing it. You learn to bow in difficulty without resenting it. Equanimity is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of wisdom inside the emotion. And like all qualities of the path, it begins small. Perhaps tonight, equanimity means not needing your thoughts to be quiet, just noticing them, letting them pass. Perhaps tomorrow it means not reacting to a harsh word, not because it didn't hurt, but because you chose stillness over retaliation. Equanimity gives you that choice, to pause, to see, to stay grounded in your values when everything around you shifts. And slowly, this balance becomes your refuge. You stop needing the world to be perfect to feel peace. You stop needing every conversation to end well to feel whole. You trust that life in all its unfolding can be met with a steady heart. So let equanimity tuck you in tonight like a blanket of stillness. Let it remind you that peace is not found in controlling the wind, but in finding your center within it. And when you wake tomorrow, the winds may blow again. But you, dear one, will remember where your calm resides. It is not outside. It is right here. We have now walked through understanding, through compassion, through concentration, and balance. But what brings all these qualities to life? What breathes them into our daily choices? Our quiet thoughts, our way of moving through the world. It is the intention to stay awake again and again to this moment. This is what the Buddha meant by mindfulness. Not merely attention, but loving embodied presence. You are not just noticing the breath, you are caring for it. You are not just aware of your thoughts, you are meeting them like old friends you no longer need to obey. Mindfulness transforms each simple act into a doorway. Washing your hands becomes a sacred pause. Drinking tea becomes a meditation on warmth. Waiting at a red light becomes a moment to return to the breath, to the body, to the now. This presence is not fragile. It doesn't vanish just because thoughts appear. It doesn't require silence or retreat. It is with you in the marketplace and in the quiet of night. Mindfulness is the light that follows you wherever you go when you remember to turn toward it. And when paired with wisdom, it becomes a lantern guiding you gently through the fog of suffering. You see, pain may still arise, but you no longer drown in it. Joy may visit, but you don't cling to it or fear its leaving. Instead, you live each moment like a note in a song, not rushed, not held back, but heard fully. This kind of living brings grace, even in difficulty. You might still grieve, but your grief will breathe. You might still fail, but failure will no longer define you. You might still long, but longing won't consume you, because each moment is simply what it is, not a verdict, not a problem. Just the next step in your walk on sacred ground. So as you lie here tonight, let mindfulness soften you. Let it wrap around your body like a silk robe of awareness. Notice the weight of your hands, the curve of your spine, the air entering and leaving the nose. No need to change anything. Just notice. Just be. This is enough. When the mind wanders, as it surely will, gently bring it back. Like a mother guiding a sleepy child back to bed. No scolding, no judgment, just love. This is your homecoming. Not a place, but a way of being. And the more you return to this home, the more natural it becomes. So that one day, even amid noise and stress, your heart remains quiet. Your mind remains steady. Your presence remains whole. This is the gift of mindfulness. The remembering of what was never really lost. You, alive, aware, enough. We now come gently to the close of our journey tonight. And yet, nothing truly ends, not in the heart that stays open, not in the presence that remembers its own light. As the breath continues, so does the path. As your awareness deepens, so does your freedom. And now more than ever, we turn toward the quiet fruit of all this practice peace, not a momentary relief, not a pleasure dependent on condition, but the deep, steady peace that rises when we no longer resist life, when we have looked at suffering and understood it, when we have seen craving for what it is, when we have walked the path with gentle resolve. This peace cannot be bought. It cannot be stolen or given. It arises when we stop struggling against change and allow life to be as it is. It is the kind of peace that doesn't require silence to feel calm. It doesn't need every person to agree, every task to be done, every doubt to be resolved. It is the kind of peace that whispers softly in your heart. You don't need to hold so tightly. You begin to loosen your grip on expectations, on judgments, on the need to know what comes next. And in that loosening, you begin to feel something vast, a great inner sky beneath the clouds of thought and emotion. This is your true refuge, not somewhere far away, but right here in the stillness between two breaths, in the space between wanting and letting go. And so tonight, let the teaching settle not as ideas, but as lived truth. Let them weave through your sleep like gentle mantras of remembering. Let your last thought before sleep be, I am safe. I am enough. I am home. No need to hold any more than that. No need to do anything more. Tomorrow will come. The world will turn. The winds will rise again. But tonight you are resting in the great calm that the Buddha saw in every heart. You are part of that lineage, not because of what you've read or believed, but because of how you've listened. With presence, with kindness, with an open mind. And now, as your eyelids grow heavier, as the mind softens into silence, receive this final gift. Let it fall like a gentle rain over the garden of your soul. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. May I too awaken to my true nature and walk this path with ease. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. You are not alone. You never were. Rest well, dear friend. The Dharma is always with you. And now we drift, gently, quietly, into the soft closing of this night. You've journeyed far, not through cities or landscapes, but through the sacred terrain of your own heart. You've heard the truth of suffering. You've seen the cause. You've touched the possibility of its end. And you've walked step by patient step along the noble path that leads inward, toward stillness, toward balance, toward awakening. Let that journey settle now. Let it become breath. Let it become silence. You don't need to remember every word. You don't need to hold on to anything. The teaching is already inside you, woven into the rhythm of your presence, waiting to bloom as kindness in the light of day. Feel your body. Heavy, safe, supported. No more striving tonight. No more seeking. Everything is here. Everything is enough. You are enough. Let the quiet deepen. Let it stretch like a warm horizon into the space of your sleep. If dreams come, let them come gently. If thoughts linger, let them pass like wind through trees. And if you awaken in the night, just return to your breath, to your body, to the peace that never left you. Thank you for being here, for walking this sacred path, for remembering who you are. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a peaceful night.